of what Steve Kerr could actually do if he's going to be the head coach next season. That would be awesome to see. I would love to see it. The Warriors caught a stretch of really bad luck. Obviously, no Klay Thompson, and you get Jimmy Butler who gets hurt, Draymond Green, and Kristaps Porzingis. I think his ability to make shots from the three-point line, to make shots off the bounce, to be in the mid-post, to do everything from ball screen to setting the ball screen to being in the ball screen. I would love that for Steph Curry. I still love watching Steph Curry play. I would love for him to go out on a high note. I think that would completely change the trajectory of the Warriors season next season if they were able to.
BYU's Dybantsa is the favorite to go number 1 overall. The draft lottery taking place this Sunday. Pacers, Nets, and Wizards, the 3 teams with the best odds of getting that top pick. All those teams have a 14% chance. Let's break this into tiers as we break down the best fits for Dybantsa. The first one there, the desperation tier, the teams that they could use any kind of a jolt right now. The middle, the interesting tier, that's teams like the Pacers who were in the finals a season ago. And then you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts, the wild tier, including, really, the Oklahoma City Thunder. That would be ridiculous. Let's start with Mike O'Donnell here in the desperation tier. Mike, in the team that I rooted for growing up, the Chicago Bulls, in this tier because they're among teams with the Kings, the Wizards, the Nets that have been really bad for several years. And some of these teams have been really bad for a lot longer than that. Which of those teams do you think need them the most?
The Kings should have been better. I think there's enough talent there for them to kind of figure it out. I mean, just caveat to say that Dybantsa can play on any team in the NBA, start right away, and be an all-star for that team. Any team in the league. That's how good he is. This guy's going to be a 10-time all-star, in my opinion. So, I mean, obviously, you talk about the Kings and the Wizards need help everywhere. The Nets need help everywhere. I'd love to see him in Chicago. I think that city needs it. That organization needs it. Obviously, when you think of the Chicago Bulls, you think of Michael Jordan, Captain Obvious. He had a couple good years. You and I were talking about it with Derrick Rose, where it felt like the Chicago Bulls, wow, back on top, that market, that city, that culture, it fit perfect. What a cool landing spot it would be for Dybantsa, the Chicago Bulls in the Chicago market. And the Bulls have some pretty good role pieces on that roster. Sexton, Giddey, Dosunmu, Vukovic. There's some pretty good pieces immediately if you put Dybantsa on the Chicago Bulls, right? It's not as if he's going to have a ton of help around him. He'll be option number 1, number 2, and number 3. He's going to get so many plays run for him and action run for him that, he's going to score 25 a game. You put him on that lineup. And I think with that market, I think it would be great for the Bulls and great for the NBA.
Yeah, the Bulls need a star, a young
100%,
star. I mean,
100%.
They've tried bringing in some aging stars recently, but that hasn't worked.
You and I have watched a lot of his game at BYU. It does feel like he's a can't-miss guy in the league in the draft this year.
All right, so the Bulls, of those teams with the lowest percentage chance of actually getting the number 1 pick, they're right about 4.5%. Let's go to the next tier. We're going to call this the interesting tier because you have teams like the Hornets who up and coming a little bit, made the postseason and have some pieces. A team like the Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton hurt the whole year, so they go from runner-up in the NBA Finals less than a year ago to potentially getting the number 1 pick here. And the Utah Jazz are also in this interesting tier list. What would be the best fit for Dybantsa in this tier?
And the Hawks, too, from a standpoint of where you've got how do you win without Trae Young? You don't have a superstar. So when you mention those teams, the Hornets have drafted exceptionally well as of late. A couple years ago, they got Brandon Miller. He's a 20-point-a-game guy. Last season, you get Con Kneppel, who, ran up against Cooper Flagg for Rookie of the Year in the NBA. He was awesome this season. And you also got Ryan Kalkbrenner and Sion James in the second round, who two very serviceable players. That would be an interesting fit. You like that. You mentioned the Pacers. Could you imagine pairing Tyrese Halliburton with Dybantsa? That is a big-time 1-2 punch. That city, Indianapolis, that state, basketball, getting that type of all-star player paired with Halliburton, that would be epic. I just think it makes a lot of brand sense for Dybantsa to be in the Utah Jazz. Obviously, it was no secret the Utah Jazz are did everything they possibly could to get that number 1 pick. There are relationships with BYU and Utah, with Danny Ainge, and that's been talked about at length. I think, him being able to stay in the same state, the state has completely fell in love with him. He is an absolute star in the state of Utah. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think the fan base would go nuts. They've got a lot of size at that position already. I get it, but he would have the keys on day 1 and be just such an epic force in the Western Conference for the Utah Jazz.
Okay, so Utah Jazz in that interesting tier, the best fit for A.J. Dybantsa, and it makes sense playing at BYU in Utah. Let's go to the wild tier.
I can't believe we're doing this.
Yeah, it
we're
seems
really doing
like
this?
The Warriors, with Steph Curry, you want to put him on with Steph Curry, who maybe only has a few years left. A team like the Dallas Mavericks, that got the number 1 pick a season ago with Cooper Flagg. How about the Thunder, though? I mean, they have a chance to get the number 1 pick. It is. And the Mavs last year had a less than 2% chance to get the number 1 pick, and they got it. That's what the Thunder would have to pull off here. But do you think if they got the number 1 pick, they would even go for Dybantsa, considering how they are set up already right now? Or do you just trade that away for somebody who needs him?
When you want to talk, first, absolute crazy talk. Could you imagine the OKC Thunder getting the number 1 pick?
No.
Impossible, unfathomable. And so, right, if they have the number 1 pick, yes, you take A.J. Dybantsa.
Would you?
Okay, and you just do it because he is going to be a 10-time All-Star. You just do it. I'd be shocked if that happens. I actually fit, that kind of tier 3. Like, we also didn't talk about the Miami Heat. You don't want to talk about a guy that fits that culture really well. The Miami Heat culture in Dybantsa, that fits pretty well. The Mavericks, if they got
You're taking him from Utah and placing him in South Beach. I mean, that's a little different culture.
Well, no, but
I know what you mean by the
tiers.
culture of the team.
Yeah, for sure. But so the Mavericks, if you get Cooper Flagg and A.J. Dybantsa in back-to-back years, that would be, completely ridiculous and amazing. But I think what I would like to see, I'm sorry, Chris, you're probably going to be mad at me. I'm a Steph Curry apologist. I'd love to see him go out on a high note. And I think if you put A.J. Dybantsa next to Steph Curry, the gravity of those two players inside of that offense, inside the offensive scheme of what Steve Kerr could actually do if he's going to be the head coach next season, that would be awesome to see. I would love to see it. The Warriors caught a stretch of really bad luck. Obviously, no Klay Thompson. And you get Jimmy Butler who gets hurt, Draymond Green and Kristaps Porzingis. I think his ability to make shots from the three-point line, to make shots off the bounce, to be in the mid-post, to do everything from ball screen to setting the ball screen to being in the ball screen, I would love that for Steph Curry. I still love watching Steph Curry play. I would love for him to go out on a high note. I think that would completely change the trajectory of the Warriors season next season if they were able to get Dybantsa.
Is there any team out there in the lottery that could get the number 1 pick that gets it, and you would say, you know what, it wouldn't be Dybantsa, it would be Peterson or Boozer who would be the best fit for that team?
Actually, I would look at the Pacers. I think the Pacers, if
Warriors Nation News. Dub Nation, let me hit you with a question that sounds like fantasy until you realize the lottery only has to bounce your way one time. What if the next face of the Golden State Warriors is not years away, not some slow burn project, but A.J. Dybantsa walking into the Bay while Steph Curry is still in the building? That is the kind of possibility that can flip the entire emotional temperature of an offseason. And the reason fans are even dreaming about it is simple. The Warriors do have a lottery path. Golden State's own site says the team holds the 11th best odds in the 2026 lottery draft and a 2% shot at the number 1 pick, which is tiny, sure, but not zero. And last year, Dallas jumped from just 1.8% to the top spot. So yes, this is a long shot, but it is a real long shot. And that is enough to make people stare at the ceiling and start imagining A.J. Dybantsa in a Warriors jersey. And if that miracle ball actually hits, now we are talking about a completely different offseason, because AJ is not being viewed as some nice prospect with upside. BYU's official profile says he started all 35 games as a true freshman, led the nation in scoring at 25.5 points per game, scored 894 points, and shattered a pile of freshman records. BYU also announced he declared for the 2026 NBA draft after becoming a consensus first-team All-American, and the school highlighted that the 6'9" forward was also named AP first-team All-American. That is not normal freshman production. That is give this guy the keys to a franchise eventually production. Now picture the positive Warriors scenario. Not AJ arriving to a broken team and getting told, "Go save us by yourself, kid." No, no, no. Picture him arriving into one of the smartest basketball cultures in the sport. Picture him learning pace, spacing, timing, movement, accountability, and shot selection next to Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. That is where this gets serious. Because AJ's size and scoring package would give Golden State something the roster has badly needed more consistently: a long, explosive wing creator who can get to his own shot and pressure defenses in ways that do not depend entirely on Steph's gravity. Steph bends the floor. AJ could attack the gaps that opens. Steph runs defenders into chaos. AJ could punish switches, finish over length, and create offense when possessions get ugly late in the clock. That fit is not just exciting, it's structural. And here's the part that should make Warriors fans lean in even harder. AJ landing in Golden State would not only help the Warriors, it would instantly become one of the most watched rookie situations in the NBA. Think about the spotlight, think about the clips, think about the learning curve. A 6'9" scoring wing with star upside, mentored by the greatest shooter ever in a system famous for movement and reads. That would be league-wide content every night. Every step back, every weak side cut, every fast break dunk, every moment where Steph points at a spot and AJ gets there half a second earlier the next week. Fans would eat that up. The NBA loves stories, and the top pick learning under Steph Curry while preparing to carry the Warriors into the next era is a gigantic story. Now, let's stay honest, because that matters. This does not mean AJ would instantly make the Warriors title favorites on day one. Rookies are rookies, development still matters. But this is why the scenario is so positive for Golden State. AJ would not need to be the savior immediately. He could grow inside winning habits instead of growing inside chaos. That is a massive difference. And for a Warriors team coming off a 37-45 season, a play-in exit, and real off-season uncertainty around Steve Kerr's future, adding a premium talent without forcing him to be everything overnight would be the cleanest bridge imaginable between the current Steph era and whatever comes next. Reuters reported Kerr wanted time to evaluate his future after the season, and Warriors' exit coverage made clear this summer is a major turning point for the franchise. Drafting AJ in that context wouldn't erase every problem, but it would give Golden State something priceless, a believable future with star power already forming in-house. And let me say this loud for Dub Nation. The real beauty of AJ to the Warriors would be that it would not be about replacing Steph. It would be about extending Steph's impact. It would be about Steph teaching the next guy how to carry the culture, how to handle the pressure, how to weaponize attention instead of drowning in it. That is why this dream hits so hard. AJ Dybantsa in Golden State would not just be a draft pick, it would feel like a relay pass between eras, with the franchise still trying to win now while preparing the next monster chapter. So, if lottery luck gets weird and the Warriors somehow pull this off, the rest of the NBA should pay very close attention, because AJ's talent is real, the Warriors' platform is real, and the combination could change the trajectory of the franchise a lot faster than people think. Drop your take in the comments. If the lottery miracle happens, should the Warriors sprint to the podium and take AJ Dybantsa without hesitation? Hit like, subscribe, and stay locked in to Warriors Nation News.